Hello, and thank you for joining our live event. We will be live momentarily. As a reminder, if you would like to get in line to ask a question, please press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time during this call. Again, if you would like to ask a question, please press star 3 on your telephone keypads. The call will resume momentarily. Thank you for your patience. Hello, we are having technical difficulties at the moment, and we are rebooting the system and should be going live shortly. We are still going to be live. The event is still active. As a reminder, if you'd like to get in line to ask a question, please press star 3 on your telephone keypad at any time during this call. The call will resume momentarily. Thank you for your patience. The area, of course, just let me know. want me to text you or let you know in the private?
Good evening. I'm Kathy Morin with the Government of Alberta, and I'll be your host for tonight's live and interactive telephone town hall for Albertans evacuated by the 2024 wildfires. I'm joined by Premier Danielle Smith, Mayor Richard Ireland, Town of Jasper, Deputy Premier and Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Services Mike Ellis, Ministry of Forestry and Parks Todd Lowen, Ministry of Seniors, Community and Social Services Jason Nixon, Minister of Municipal Affairs Rick McIver, MLA Martin Long, West Yellowhead, as well as senior government officials and agency representatives who are on hand to answer your questions, including representatives from Alberta Wildfire, Parks Canada, the Insurance Bureau of Canada, and the RCMP. Before we hear from our speakers, let me start by explaining how tonight's information session will work. Right now, evacuees from Alberta are connecting to the call and will have a chance to join the conversation. You can ask a question at any time by pressing *3 on your phone, and you'll be connected to an operator. You will provide your question to that operator, and we will read it out loud and then have our panel of experts respond to your question. If you're listening online, you can also submit questions and comments through the online portal. Now, I would like to welcome Premier Smith to share a few opening remarks, followed by Mayor Ireland, then Minister Ellis, and finally, Minister Nixon. Premier, please go ahead.
Thank you. I'll be very brief, and just good evening and everyone, and thanks so much for joining us. Whether you've been evacuated yourself or you're supporting a loved one who's had to leave their home, know that our hearts are with all of you, and several of us have been through this as well. Me in the High River floods of 2013, Rick McIver was there for in government as well, and then of course Brian Jean most recently when a very similar incident happened in Fort McMurray. So we know how hard it is to be out of your home. Devastation created by wildfires is becoming all too familiar, but familiarity doesn't ease the pain of losing your home or the uncertainty of what your future will hold. So tonight's telephone town hall is really meant to lessen some of that uncertainty. We hope to be able to give you as much clarity as we can and give you information that you can take care of yourselves and your families. I think we'd already mentioned the other elected officials who are on here. You'll hear very briefly from Mayor of Jasper, Richard Ireland, as well as Mike Ellis, Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Services, and Jason Nixon, Minister of Seniors, Community and Social Services. The other ministers are on hand in the event that you have questions for them that need to be answered. And I do just want to express my gratitude first and foremost for the first responders and emergency crews on the front line. We are so grateful to everyone who worked so courageously to protect people and the communities threatened by wildfire. These really are the heroes, and they work relentlessly to keep everyone safe. Your own firefighting crew in Jasper, for instance, many of them continue to fight on even after losing their own homes. Jurisdictions across Canada and around the world are sending teams, equipment, and resources to help with the battle, and communities across the province have stepped up to support Jasperites by providing food, shelter, help for displaced people. I know that there are stressful times, but please know that you're not alone facing them. Tonight, our experts will give you context about the current situation, information on available resources, and of course, what comes next. Those not able to ask a question tonight are encouraged to call 310-4455. I'll just give you that number again, 310-4455. You can also visit our website, alberta.ca/emergency. We have that continually updated to provide information and support as it becomes available. Now I'd like to turn it over to Mayor Richard Ireland.
Thank you, Premier. Good evening, everyone. Such a difficult week. My heart goes out to all of you. I had really hoped to take advantage of this opportunity that's been offered, so necessary for all of you. As the first opportunity I've had to connect with so many of you, and I fear that given some technical difficulties, I will not hear voices from home. But I know that you are all out there supporting the same cause. I want to thank the Government of Alberta for all the support that it's offered. In the past week, as you know, I visited the community with the Premier. On Friday, I have been in front of the press many times, and I will tonight, as I did with all of those encounters, keep my comments restricted to community impacts and these lives that have been changed because of this, and I will happily leave the details to the subject experts. On behalf of the town, we have CAO Bill Given here and Director of Community Development, Christopher Reed. I will defer questions to them. It's so important that we have this lineup of subject matter experts available, and I know that scattered as you are, what I now think of as the Jasper diaspora, it is not easy to understand the challenges that those at home are still facing. Well, technically in Hinton now trying to manage this affair. But they are working on your behalf. They have assembled a team of subject matter experts that you will hear from. And I will be as interested in many of you in some of the questions that you ask, because I too face the challenges that you face dealing with insurance and supports and other matters. Again, on behalf of the town, thank you to CAO Given and Director Reed to be here to help answer your questions. I know they will be plentiful. Thank you all for your forbearance through all of this, and thank you all so much for the many kind and supportive words that I and council and staff have received during this most difficult week, I think, in Jasper's history. But we will prevail. We will all be home again. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mike Ellis, Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Services. Just want to thank you all for joining us here this evening at the Telephone Town Hall. I want to reiterate the Premier's comments. I want to share my deepest condolences with everyone impacted by the wildfires right now. I know this is a very difficult time for everyone who is evacuated, but I am very confident that a resilient and strong spirit will see us through as we work together to rebuild and, of course, recover. I know many of you on this call have one question: when can I go home? We're working with your local authorities to bring more clarity and definitive timelines on a reentry plan as soon as possible. The Incident Command team is actively working on a plan, and they have to make sure roads and bridges are safe to travel on, the air is safe to breathe, and that there will be water, electricity, food supplies, pharmaceuticals, and other essential services. Crews are working hard to get power and water back up and running. Debris, of course, needs to be removed. We are hopeful that this work will be complete in the coming days. We know many of you want to go home and to see for yourself the state of your community. The municipality of Jasper and Alberta Emergency Management Agency are planning a bus tour for evacuated residents to view the extent of the damage caused by the wildfire. All of the communities currently under evacuation are now eligible for emergency evacuation payments, and the Ministry of Seniors and Community and Social Services working hard to process payments. Finally, I want to reiterate our commitment to all Albertans who have been evacuated. We are here for you, and we are doing everything that we can to make sure that you get the help that you need. And with that, thank you, God bless, and I'll pass on to Jason Nixon, Minister of Community Services. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. And let me just start off by saying I'm Jason Nixon. I am the Minister of Seniors and Community and Social Services in Alberta. And to echo both the Premier and my colleagues' comments, to express my thoughts and prayers to everybody who's been impacted by this terrible circumstance. I will be very brief because I'm looking forward to getting into questions today, but I do want to just emphasize what Minister Ellis said, is that there are a variety of social services supports and evacuation payments that are available at this very moment that we want to make sure that you are eligible for, and my department is working to be able to make sure that it gets to you quickly to be able to help with the circumstances that may be taking place. I will just emphasize a phone number and a website at the start that I hope that you can take down that you will be able to use as we go forward, that should help be able to get access to my department for a variety of services, and including evacuation payments. And that's that anybody can apply online at evacuationpayment.alberta.ca. So that's evacuationpayment.alberta.ca. We also have a contact center up and running for evacuation payments at 1-877-644-9992, 1-877-644-9992, as well as all of our Alberta support offices all across the province are open. Anywhere that you may find yourself at the moment, including where we have extended hours across the province where we know that evacuees are at the moment. So just make sure that you're contacting those numbers, and we will do everything we can to be able to get you support immediately. And the other thing I'd like to say just before we turn it over for questions is anybody that is receiving already social services supports from Alberta government, those who are on AISH, those who might be on PDD or other critical programs like that, we are trying to contact everybody within our programs. There are still a few that we have not been able to get a hold of. Please reach out to us, and we'll be making sure that you get extra support from the department in regards to those areas. Thank you again for being on tonight.
Thank you, Minister Nixon, and thanks to all of you for those opening remarks. For those of you who may have just connected to the call, welcome to tonight's information session for wildfire evacuees in Alberta. If you'd like to join the conversation at any time during the information session, please press *3 on your phone and you'll be entered into the queue to provide your question. For those of you listening online, please enter your comment directly into the portal. Now let's get to our first question of the evening. It comes from Bruce Robinson online. The question is, once residents are allowed into Jasper, will I be able to access my parents' house on their behalf? They're 88 to 95 and would like me to inspect their house before they return to Jasper. Their house is still standing. I'm going to ask Bill from the town of Jasper to answer that question.
Bruce, thanks very much for the question. Certainly appreciate there are a number of unique circumstances that need to be considered. Our teams are currently building our detailed re-entry plan, and we will certainly incorporate an opportunity for residents that may need assistance to delegate somebody to access their property on their behalf. We can incorporate that type of unique consideration into our re-entry plan. Thank you for raising the issue, and we'll make sure to take that back and include it.
Thanks for that response, Bill. Our next question is online, and it comes from Jillian. Will there be any specific mental health supports for evacuees, counseling, or anything of that sort? I think, Premier, did you want to start with that question?
Sure. We have a robust mental health system, and the Ministry of Mental Health and Addiction and Alberta Health Services have resources and services available to help you and your loved ones with healthcare needs in this time. If you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed or need to talk, we've got some resources available at a couple of different places. I've got a few numbers. Probably the easiest way to connect is 211. You can get connected to same-day counseling services. You can dial HealthLink at 811. Or you can visit www.ahs.ca/wildfire. We'll have a separate page on there for wildfire. I'll just say that one more time, www.ahs.ca/wildfire. Call 811 for HealthLink, call 211 for counseling support.
Thank you for that, Premier. We'll move on to our next question from Niral Gandhi online as well. We are residents at Palisades Center, Snaring Road, Jasper. Is the place intact? Are my belongings intact? If the place is burned down, how can I submit claims to Palisades Center's property insurance for my loss? I'm going to ask that we start with Parks Canada. Steve, if you could answer that.
Thank you for your question, Niral. I can give you some information. We know that about half the buildings at the Palisades are still intact, and they are some of the residential buildings. Some of the meeting rooms are gone, and some of the general facilities are gone. But I can't answer in any specifics how your personal items fared through the fire. It's still an active fire zone, so we've only had what's called a rapid assessment of that scene. So knowing that you are lacking this info, I'll make sure someone from Parks Canada reaches out to you directly when we can update you on the information. And that goes the same for the insurance inquiry that you have, totally legitimate concerns, and just a little early for us to be able to answer in any more detail at this time.
Thank you, Steve. We'll move on to the next question from a caller, Heidi. What is your plan for housing support for those who have lost their homes? I'm going to ask Aaron from Insurance Bureau of Canada to answer that, please.
Yeah, thank you. So it's a really important question. Important to know, all standard home insurance policies provide financial support for additional living expenses, including, hotel and lodging costs, whether you've sustained damage or not. If your home has been destroyed and you're going to be out of your house for a long period of time, a different portion of your coverage will kick in, but you will be provided with financial support for rent while your home is being reconstructed.
If I may jump in as well, it'd be helpful to get some feedback from residents also, because one of the things that happened on those homes that needed to be reconstructed in other communities is that there were temporary communities that were set up either within or adjacent to the town site. So we've already begun the conversations to see if there's an opportunity to identify some lands in or adjacent to Jasper. And it would be really helpful, though, if to get some feedback on whether that would be something that residents are interested in us pursuing. The other option I would say is that I'm hearing that there are private sector operators offering lodging for a free period of time. Maybe Minister Nixon might also be able to assist in helping people get connected with housing if some of those options aren't available.
Thank you, Premier, and thank you, Steve. We're going to move to the next question.
Sorry, can we just get Minister Nixon to weigh in there?
Of course,
Yeah.
sorry.
Sorry about that. Yeah, Premier is 100% correct. I mean, some of this is going to take a few more days to be able to totally figure out exactly the full need of the town and work with the National Park Service to understand what temporary may look like. That said, we are already working with both the social services sector within Jasper and the surrounding communities to begin to look at what other options there could be. I'll emphasize right the area where we started. We have lost some of our senior facilities, for example, and we're working right now to be able to work towards what midterm and long-term solutions will look like as that construction is taking place. And we are working to look at other options as far as speed to be able to look at ways that we can make sure that we can accomplish that very quickly to be able to make sure that people could re-enter Jasper and keep that community going while we work towards what will become the permanent rebuild.
Thank you, Minister Nixon. We'll move on to the next question that came in online from Dallas. Question is, will you match donations to the Jasper Community Fund? Premier, we might ask you to come back on the line and respond to that.
Sure. Thank you. I didn't realize there was a Jasper Community Fund. I'm glad that there is. We were asked by Red Cross, and the federal government was approached as well, to do what we did last year, which was to match donations for a period of 30 days to Red Cross. So why don't I take that suggestion away, and I'll see if there's some way that we can then do an additional support or direct money from Red Cross to the Jasper Community Fund. That might be the easiest way to do it. But I've made a note of that, so we'll make sure that the local resources are the ones that are receiving the money. That's important for us to identify the local community groups who are most in need. We understand the food bank is going to be in great need because their facility didn't survive, and there may be others that need that local help. So those are definitely going to be our priority, and I think the Jasper Community Fund is a good starting point for us.
Thank you, Premier Smith. We'll move on to the next question that came in online from S. Wilson. The question is, where do we assess PPE, including masks, and are the neighboring communities safe? Are there air quality levels safe? I'm going to send that to Lisa at Environment, and maybe Tina, if you'd like to add anything? Thanks.
Yes, thank you. We're going to answer the second part of that question first, talking about air quality monitoring for other communities. So online, we have 40 AQHI or Air Quality Health Index monitors. You can access those at airquality.alberta.ca. There is a permanent station in Hinton that is tracking air quality, but there's 40 throughout the province. So you should be able to access information there related to air quality in other communities. Another site we'd like to mention is Purple Air, and it's purpleair.com. There's 200 stations province-wide, and some of those are from environment and protected areas as well, about 50, and that also reports air quality information. For the town of Jasper, over the weekend, we moved up our mobile air monitoring laboratory, and it started collecting about 8 hours of data yesterday, and it's been collecting hourly today. We've been providing that information to Alberta Health and the Canadian Task Force too, so that responder health can be protected. As well, we've deployed 3 temporary air monitoring stations, one at Malign Lodge, one on Hazel Avenue. These are recording hourly particulate matter readings, which have a large impact on driving poor air quality during wildfires. I think that the other thing I wanted to raise was we are doing some sampling as well, and these collect other organic compounds which resulted from wildfire, and this helps us understand risk of contamination in the area. And with that, I'd just like to note that the readings we are taking are very high for particulate matter. They are driving poor air quality in the area. And I'd like to turn this to my colleague, Tina Maslick at Alberta Health, to talk a bit about particulate matter.
Thank you for the question. So wildfire smoke is a mixture of gases, particulate, and water vapor. Like other air quality issues, a multi-layered approach is recommended to reduce the health impacts of wildfire smoke, even in those communities surrounding Jasper. If you choose to access a mask, we don't recommend surgical masks or disposable masks, as they don't offer protection against particulates or gases. If you choose to go on a respirator route mask, that would be an N95, a KN95. Those are accessible at most pharmacies, grocery stores, or industrial supply stores. If you do feel that you're having concerns with your health, and no matter what community you're in regarding smoke, please contact 811 and talk to a health professional, and they can give you further advice on other layers, additions to masks if you choose for your health. Thanks.
Thank you, Lisa and Tina, for that. For those of you who may have just connected to the call, again, welcome to tonight's information session. If you'd like to join the conversation, please press *3 on your phone and you'll be entered into the queue to speak to an operator and provide your question. For those of you listening online, please enter your comment directly into the portal. Our next question comes from our phone lines from Rebecca. Rebecca asks, can you explain to us why we can't go home even if our home is not damaged? I think I'll turn that over to Bill with the Town of Jasper and perhaps James with Parks Canada. Thank you.
Maybe, thanks very much for the question, and maybe I'll start as most of the homes are located in the town site. We certainly appreciate that all residents want to be able to get to their home, even those whose aren't standing, they want to be able to see it. I think it's important that the public understands that the town site is not currently safe. There are a variety of hazards that are there, not the least of which is trees that may be fire damaged. There was also significant windstorm that came along with the fire behavior in the town site. And so all of the combined teams are working hard to ensure that the town site is safe for residents to come back. That includes providing fencing around destroyed areas and ensuring that there are no other hazards that would cause any risk to life safety. Please be assured that this is top priority. Crews are currently working on all of these items. And just late this afternoon, Municipal Council, the Emergency Advisory Committee of Council, has reviewed and approved re-entry criteria. Those were published to the municipality's website a short time ago. It is public information, and you can see the variety of factors that need to be in place for us as Jasperites, all of us as Jasperites, to be able to return home safely. Life safety has to be our top priority. We have made it through this incident with no impact to life, and we want to ensure that we keep it that way. And there are crews actively working to ensure that the town site is safe for you to return.
If I may just add to that, having watched this in previous incidents, I would say one of the things that happens when power and gas are turned off, to re-energize homes and to re-energize on gas as well, they have to really go door to door and make sure that there aren't any problems. When we were there, there was actually a power pole that was down. So that's one of the other hazards that will have to be repaired to make sure that electricity can go to everybody's homes. There is also white goods, so freezers and fridges that have food in them that will have to be removed carefully as well once return occurs, and figuring out what to do with all of those materials. Those are some of the things that happen in planning to just make sure that you're able to address those issues. We also know with the hospital being slightly damaged, we want to do an assessment to make sure it's available for you. The schools do not appear to be damaged as well, so kids can, when we get back in, can go back to school. And the grocery stores will need to be restocked. There is only one drugstore that survived. There's two others that were destroyed. So making sure people have access to their necessary medications are another factor. So I just thought I'd put that into context, because when we have our emergency management cabinet committee meeting in the morning, those are some of the measures that we're asking for, is trying to get an assessment of how far along those preparations have been made.
Yeah, it's Minister Ellis here. I just want to expand on what the Premier said. I think it's very important. We talk about bridges and other infrastructure. Water, of course, they're working feverishly to make sure that the water, so there's a lot of testing that has to be done with that. There's been some discussion already about air quality. You have to make sure that the air quality is good to go back to. Obviously we have ATCO and other electrical companies that are there, and the Premier read my mind. We saw down power poles, which were precariously in very dangerous positions. So all that stuff has to be taken into consideration right now. And, from just an incident command perspective, it's simple as saying we need to make sure that the scene is safe. And at the current moment, the scene is not safe, but I can tell you there are a lot of people working very hard to make that scene safe. Thank you.
Thank you all for responding to that question. We've got another question online from Carla. Some residents lost everything, their job and their home. What other benefits will be available to them? Maybe we'll start with you, Minister Nixon, and if you'd like to hand it over then to your officials afterwards.
Yeah. First of all, just to reiterate, everybody who's evacuated from Jasper is eligible for payments, evacuation payments, every man, woman, and child. And if you have not registered for those, again, I'll refer you to evacuationpayments.alberta.ca or to 1-877-644-9992. As well, we have Alberta Supports offices open all across the province, and those can be found, including their hours, at alberta.ca/alberta-supports. In addition to that, anybody who needs extra services, emergency services beyond that, can reach out to 1-866-644-5135, or to one of the evacuation centers, or to Alberta Supports Works offices, where we will be able to help accommodate any unique circumstances that are taking place. And with that, I'll refer to my ADM of Income Supports to see if he would like to add anything to that.
Thank you, Minister Nixon. Yeah, so those will connect you with Alberta government to help you navigate the various systems of Alberta government level supports, but those numbers will also connect you through to people who understand the social services sector across, including federal government programs. So if you're looking for someone to lean on, please call into one of those numbers and they can assist you. I'd also encourage, if you have lost your job, there is an expedited process to apply for unemployment or employment insurance during circumstances such as this. And of course, please contact your insurance provider as many of these are bridges towards insurance, which helps support. Thank you.
Thank you for that response. I just wanted to let people know at this point that there are a lot of numbers and resources that are being referenced. That information can be found at alberta.ca/emergency. Again, alberta.ca/emergency. So you'll be able to find those resources from that link. We'll go to our next question. It's online from Della. When can we travel from Valemount to Hinton? So maybe Christopher from Jasper could answer that.
Good evening. Yes, thank you, Della, for your question. The short answer is soon, but we don't know when. The criteria for entry, of course, need to be met before we could contemplate trips. However, having said that, the planning is ongoing to make sure that when the criteria for entry are met, we will be able to get those tours going. So stay tuned to our website, and I will add that our new tab that says Jasper Wildfire 2024 does include all of the information mentioned so far today, all of the great resources that Minister Nixon has mentioned, as well as others. So pay attention to that website.
Thank you, Christopher.
Sorry, if I could just
Go ahead.
if I could just supplement, I believe the person with the question was actually about transport between Valemount and Hinton along Highway 16. We have a significant number of Jasperites in Valemount. Their community has been very, very supportive. We appreciate that. And we want to be able to bring them home or closer to home. Our teams are working around the clock to facilitate access. We are particularly concerned about our seniors that were evacuated to the west. Evergreens has been working closely with our teams to facilitate access for those seniors. That will happen in the coming days. Broader access for general people who are self-sufficient to be able to transport would follow. So we are aware of the number of Jasperites in Valemount. We know that they want to get back into Alberta. We're working to facilitate that, and it would start first with larger groups being transported by bus with a particular focus on our seniors.
Thank you. I'd like to remind anybody who'd like to join the conversation at any time to press *3 on your phone to be entered into the queue to speak with an operator and provide your question. And again, for anybody listening online, please enter your comment directly into the portal. Got another question here online. What is the timeline for Pursuit employees to return to staff housing at Moline Lake? Maybe James at Parks Canada could answer that.
Yeah, so unfortunately at this time we don't have a timeline for when access to Moline Lake will be possible. While the structures up at the lake shore have not been affected by the fire is burning actively along Moline Lake Road. Sorry. So until the wildfire is able to be controlled, we won't be able to facilitate access in that area. We'll share updates on our progress. We have a great many people who are working very hard to extinguish this wildfire, but it will take us some time. The fire burned very intensely, and there are a lot of hot spots that require quite a lot of water. They burn very deeply into the ground. So until we're able to secure the perimeter of the wildfire in that area, we won't be able to facilitate safe access to Moline Lake.
Thank you. Our next question is online from Bruce. Will they be doing bus tours for residents to tour the town? Will they also do a tour out to Lake Edith for the leaseholders there? Maybe Bill, that's a question you could answer.
Sure, certainly. We are aware that residents want to be able to get in and view the community, particularly those residents who have seen that their their house has been severely impacted. Our teams are working on planning that actively. They were in the middle of that today. We expect to be able to announce details on that in the coming days. We expect that the first access would be essentially a tour bus style access. and then access to oversee searching for items in properties would be a controlled process, because there are, again, a number of hazardous materials, but that is also a part of our planning. There are specialized teams that will support us in that. And I guess I would refer the question about the Lake Edith properties to our colleagues in Parks Canada. I would imagine, though, that if we're organizing these types of bus tours, that would be something that we would do jointly and collaboratively to ensure that it works to the best benefit of residents. I'll refer the balance to Parks.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you for the question. Absolutely, we're working, the incident is being managed under one roof, so municipality and Parks Canada are working together on these things in parallel. For the operations and residents outside of town itself, we're looking at the same plans, bus tours to get people who have cabins at Lake Edith, and for our outlying commercial accommodation owners, we are planning visits there as well, so they can survey their properties at least through the window of vehicle till we get the sites stable enough for people to be on the ground there. But same with the municipalities' plans, we're working in lockstep to get everyone to their properties for at least a visit as soon as we can do that safely.
All right, thank you, Bill and James, for those responses. Our next question is, a lot of seasonal workers don't have insurance. Is there support for them? Minister Nixon, would you like to start, and then we can pass it over to Toby, maybe?
Yes. So first, just to be clear, for Alberta evacuation payments, anybody who had to evacuate, including permanent residents, seasonal workers in Jasper, and temporary foreign workers are all eligible for those payments. So make sure, again, that you're going to our websites and contacting those numbers to make sure that you're getting those payments, as well as we just said a few moments ago, by contacting those numbers, we're able to get you into contact with other services, both within the Alberta government as well as the federal government, that may be available, and in the nonprofit sector. And yeah, I'll get Toby to supplement that if he wants to add anything more specific.
Minister Nixon's exactly right. I would supplement by saying that if you find yourself in true distress and in financial need, please don't hesitate to call our 24/7 line. It's 1-866-644-5135. Minister Nixon mentioned this line as well. They're available 24/7, and they can assist you. And if you've been displaced to outside the province as well, please still call that line. That's totally available. Thank you.
Thank you, Toby. Thank you, Minister. We have another question from Katie. Is there any information as to where the fire is outside the town? James, would you like to start with that?
Yeah, so the fire, there's still an unsecured perimeter of the wildfire directly adjacent to the town. And I don't mean to say that to alarm anybody. The fire behavior currently is fairly reduced. We've been getting a bit of rain today. We had a good amount of rain a couple of days ago, and crews their top priority is really reducing and eliminating the remaining risk to the community. We've got a whole lot of people working adjacent to the town to extinguish those hotspots that I was speaking about earlier, but because of how deep they've burned into the ground, it takes quite a bit of time to extinguish them. It needs a lot of water, so the progress is a little bit slow. We have deployed our 12-inch high-volume sprinkler system around the community as well to protect it from any further damage from the wildfire. As I mentioned, our top priority really is to reduce the remaining risk to the community from the fire that is burning around it. But it's going to take some time while we work on those hotspots.
Thank you, James. Got a call from Rob. His question is, I am helping a large number of staff and friends with their insurance. We're getting a lot of conflicting information from adjusters and insurance. Is there a place we can submit complaints about insurance companies misleading or not helping us? I'm going to ask Aaron from the Insurance Bureau of Canada to respond, please.
Yeah, thank you, and I'm happy to take this from an insurance perspective. So it's certainly early days as we respond to the fire. And so a lot of questions and confusion out there as it relates to insurance. If you do have questions, I would really encourage everyone on this call to either contact your insurance company to ensure you're getting what you're entitled to, or give us a call at the Insurance Bureau of Canada. If you have questions beyond that, our number is 1-844-2-ASK-IBC. So that's 1-844-227-5422. We are not an insurance company, and our mandate is to help customers with questions and concerns regarding their coverage.
If I may as well, we also have insurance consumer complaints line. If you go online and just type in Insurance Ombudsman Alberta, that would be another avenue for you to register your concern. I can tell you I had a call earlier today with the Insurance Bureau of Canada, and we're prepared to play a role in assisting in trying to get some of that clarity. It's always a very confusing time when you've got this many properties with multiple different insurance companies, and we want to make sure that everybody is able to get the coverage that they need. So do know that we're prepared to play that role as a provincial government, but if you want to make a complaint, there is an independent ombudsman to do that too in Alberta.
Thank you, Premier, and thank you, Aaron. Just a reminder that if you'd like to join the conversation, please press *3 on your phone and you'll be entered into the queue. You'll speak with an operator who will take down your question. And if any of you are listening online and have a question, please enter your comment directly through the portal. So our next question, we've combined some similar questions from Sherry, George, and Robert, who are asking about the state of some of the structures and sites. So those include Wapiti Campground, Lake Edith, Jasper Park Lodge, Milligan Manor, and Golf Club House. Parks or James, with perhaps you'd like to start with that?
Yeah, Steve here from Parks. I can tell you we have already talked about Lake Edith. This question came earlier. There were 7 buildings in total damaged or destroyed by the fire, 3 of which were cabins. All the rest are in good condition, and Parks Canada is working on protecting that zone with facility protection measures and wildfire management right now. The Jasper Park Lodge, I can't go into specifics as to what buildings were lost, but they were about 10 out of approximately 120 buildings they have on their site. So they saw significant losses, but a lot of the Jasper Park Lodge as we know it is still in place. We have not spent a lot of time just due to priorities in terms of getting to campgrounds just yet. We know that the fire had burned through those areas. We do know that people's private trailers and RVs that were left there, many of them are in good condition, but we don't have an inventory yet that's active in our planning and inventorying process. But and we will get answers to those owners. Luckily, they all have license plates, and regardless of where they're from, we'll be able to speak to them directly when we get firsthand information on the status of their belongings that are left in the campgrounds. And I think there was a question about whether or not we would get these campgrounds open again or open for residents. And we will be planning a comprehensive re-entry to Jasper. And then a subsequent step is actually the recovery phase. Re-entry is an initial step that happens in the emergency and the incident itself. Recovery is a longer term process, and Parks Canada and the municipality were working together to make sure that those residents that need temporary accommodation, contractors, and so on will all be given the accommodations and the places to park their their trailers or other things that they need to help on the road to recovery. And those subsequent planning steps are being hatched now, but we're quite early in the thinking there. So I can't give specifics on which campgrounds might house contractors. Everything's on the table in terms of our efforts to bring us to recovery and return Jasper to the community that we know and love.
If I may also, it's been suggested to us by the Mayor of Hinton that Hinton could potentially be a staging area for contractors as well. So we've asked the federal government, I asked the Prime Minister to make sure that we're part of the integrated team in all the way through recovery so that we can also provide some of the resources of the provincial government to aid in that resettlement and reconstruction as well.
Thank you, Premier, and thank you, James. Our next question comes from Aaron. Will there be any supports for businesses? I'm going to ask Corinna from Jobs, Economy and Trade to answer that question, please.
Thanks for the question, Aaron. We understand that getting back to business as soon as possible is going to be really important for business owners and the communities they serve. Just to reiterate what's been mentioned previously tonight, insurance is the first line of support for businesses through disasters like this, and most home insurance or business insurance policies do cover fire damage. I'd encourage you to speak to your insurance broker or your insurance representative to discuss the details of your policy and what it covers. Many insurance policies also offer business interruption coverage. We do also have a program within the Government of Alberta called BizConnect, which provides pathfinding services to assist small business owners in navigating the services and supports that are available through the government and partner organizations, depending on the specific supports your business might need. Business owners that are impacted by wildfires can reach BizConnect through alberta.ca/BIZConnect. As well, our partner organization Business Link provides free advice and referrals to business supports, and they can be reached at 1-800-272-9675.
If I may as well, Martin Long is the MLA for the area, as you know, and I've asked him if he can establish a working group for business so that we can get some of the feedback of the kinds of supports that the business community would find helpful. There have been special programs in the past, and so if you would call Martin Long's office if you find yourself in that position, and just so we can collect the information. If we could either assist in developing a specialized program, or we can work with the Red Cross on developing a program through the Red Cross shared donations or joint donations with us, the federal government and the provincial government, so that we can identify particular programs that might aid in that recovery as well.
Thank you, Premier, and thank you, Corinna. Our next question comes from Jennifer. Jennifer asks, do I need to keep paying rent if I can't get back to my place? I'm going to ask Chelsea from Service Alberta to respond.
Thank you, Jennifer, for the question. While tenants are evacuated, they are still responsible for paying rent. If a rental unit is destroyed, damaged beyond repair, or damaged to such an extent that a reasonable person would not be willing to remain in the rental property, the rental agreement could be frustrated. If a landlord and tenant mutually agree that the agreement is frustrated, you do not need to continue paying rent, and the landlord is required to return the security deposit. If a landlord disagrees that the agreement is frustrated and you have already stopped paying rent, the landlord can make an application for damages to the courts or the Residential Tenancy Dispute Resolution Service, and then they can keep some or all of the security deposit. So if you have more questions about this, please reach out to our Consumer Contact Center. They can be reached at 1-877-427-4088. And you can also send an email to RTA, as in Residential Tenancy Act, at gov.ab.ca.
Thank you, Chelsea. Our next question comes online. What is being done to assist the busload of senior citizens who are currently homeless from Pine Grove Manor in Valemont? Perhaps Minister Nixon, you'd like to start before, and then maybe hand it over to your officials?
Yeah, I can. And I want everybody to know that we've been in contact with Evergreen Foundation, which is our housing management body in the area from the very first moments of evacuation. And I can confidently say that all seniors that live in the manor and in Alberta Health Services facilities or the lodge are accounted for and are safe. About half are actually with family at the moment, and about a little over half, I believe, are in a hotel. Most of them in Valemont, as the question asked. We're working with Evergreen on a plan for re-entry into Alberta, and we should have more to say about that in the coming days. We're in very close contact, though, with those seniors and with the housing management body. And I know Assistant Deputy Minister Williams, who's the Assistant Deputy Minister of Housing, is here. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, David.
Minister, just to supplement, we are working very closely, recognizing the difficulty in transferring some of the folks back from Valemont. So, and we're finding making sure both that there is a safe mode of transportation once the highway has been reopened to bring people back into Alberta, as well as working to have a safe place for them to go to when they arrive. So that's what we're working with Evergreens, and we're close to being able to have that set up for them.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Bryden. When will I be able to get into town to get my car? Will there be transportation provided from Hinton? Perhaps that's a question for Christopher from Jasper.
Certainly, thank you, Bryden. Again, another good question that does depend entirely on the re-entry requirements being met. So we're a few days off or a few weeks off of that. We don't know yet. However, we will contemplate adding transportation for people who have vehicles stranded. So thank you for that point, and we will incorporate that in our planning.
Thank you for that response. I'd just like to remind anybody listening that if you would like to ask a question, please press *3 on your phone. You'll be entered into a queue. You'll speak with an operator and be able to provide your question to be read live. For those of you listening online, please enter your comment directly into the portal. Our next question comes from Beth. She asks, why wasn't an evacuation center set up in Hinton, closer to home? I'm going to ask Joe from the Alberta Emergency Management Agency to answer that one, please.
Thank you. And what was terribly unfortunate was the Highway 16 east of Jasper was closed due to wildfire, and so that sent the evacuees west. And where arrangements were made in communities that are very grateful for to take on our evacuees from Jasper. But maybe I can turn it over to the town of Jasper to comment.
Thank you, Joe. So to add to that, yes, indeed, the highway was closed most of the time. There were some evacuees that were able to transit east. And for those evacuees, graciously, the town of Hinton has been very supportive. And now that we are in town, we are finding ways to partner. Certainly, Mental Health and Addictions has been a great partner and has set up some services here in Hinton. But the short answer about why we didn't set up a reception center in Hinton is that very few evacuees did make it to Hinton, and we can't set up evacuation centers everywhere. The town of Hinton is not nearly as large and well-serviced as Edmonton, Calgary, and Grand Prairie, which is where the large majority of our evacuees did manage to make it to. So thank you.
Yeah, just Minister Ellis here, I just want to supplement that. I think we all recall, I mean, this was a very dynamic situation that the town and everyone was experiencing at the time. Although a few people were, as the one representative indicated, there was a few people that were maybe able to make it east. However, as these two dynamic fires were going, the primary egress route out of the municipality was west. And to the other points that were being made, Calgary and some of the larger municipalities, unfortunately, have a lot of experience, and we are certainly grateful for them in being able to accommodate so many people so quickly. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Our next question comes from Shane. Shane asks, a lot of insurance claims need the fire marshal report to start the claim. When and where will those be released? I'm going to ask Aaron from Insurance Bureau of Canada to answer that, please.
Yeah, another great question. And just to clear up any confusion here, the fire marshal reports are not required for an insurance policy. What insurers are waiting on, just like everyone else, is the ability to safely access this community to begin the claims process. And so that's really the next step we're waiting for on an insurance perspective. Those fire marshal reports are typically done more for municipal tracking and other things, but certainly aren't required from an insurance point of view to get the claim going.
Thank you, Aaron. Our next question is directed to you, Premier. Are you aware that people are having trouble accessing help from Red Cross unless they are in Edmonton, despite a majority of the people being evacuated west? If you'd like to answer.
Well, your question was the first I heard of that, and so I did quickly ask Mike Ellis to make sure that we're in touch with Red Cross to correct that immediately. I should mention that Shane Getson, who's my parliamentary secretary, sent me a note saying he is en route to Valemount just to talk to evacuees there to see if there are any other of those kinds of missing pieces. We want to make sure that everybody feels supported. So thanks for raising that. I do understand that there are groups that are working to come into Alberta to assist us in providing some kind of support cards, like a pre-charged debit card. And so we're going through the process of just having that connected with the NGOs. That we've got an NGO coordinator within our Alberta Emergency Management Agency. And so as we identify those supports and some of those additional types of debit cards that'll be available, we'll make sure that information is available on the website. But we'll try to solve this problem immediately.
Premier, if I could just add to that in regards to Alberta evacuation payments, I know that the question was about Red Cross, but I do just want to emphasize at this time that any evacuee that is not in Alberta, because they've had to evacuate and they're still in BC, for example, are completely eligible for our evacuation payments. And any of the numbers that I've given or websites, please reach out to those right away so we can make sure we help support you. And as the Premier mentioned, MLA Getson is on his way to Valemount with some support from our department as well to be able to make sure that we can utilize some of the government supports in that community to be able to make sure that we're getting to evacuees. So just want to stress, just because you're not in Alberta doesn't mean that you can't access Alberta supports.
And I just want to thank for that question, because this is precisely why these town halls are so important. And the Premier texted me, she indicated right away, and we have somebody bridging that gap as we speak. Thank you.
Thank you for that response. Our next question is for local contractors. Where can we find which projects will be posted, and what is the process to apply to get back to rebuild the town? I wonder, Bill from Jasper, if you could answer that.
Well, first, we appreciate the passion of locals for rebuilding our community. I think we all want to put some sweat equity into rebuilding Jasper back to the community that it was before this incident. The municipality has set up a clearinghouse for offers of help. I have an email address for you. It's pretty simple. It's assist@jasper-alberta.ca. That's assist@jasper-alberta.ca. So any local contractors or others who feel that they can help, I would encourage you to send an email.
The host would like you to
unmute
your microphone.
To that address.
You can
that
press
allows us to prioritize
to
the
unmute.
offers of assistance and help to ensure that the ones that are the most useful now can get actioned, and those that might be more useful later on don't get missed. So again, that email address is assist@jasper-alberta.ca.
I'll just add to that because we also have a website or an email portal that we use during these kinds of events as well. Emergency support offers at gov.ab.ca. We'll make sure that both of those are available on the website. since there are two different means for that. And as I mentioned before, we've begun the process. I don't know, Mike, if you want to talk a little bit about it, of setting up a recovery task force that includes everyone, because there's some of this is going to be provincial assist, some of it, of course, is led municipally, some of it, of course, is Parks Canada, and we want to make sure that when I spoke with the Insurance Bureau of Canada today, they were quite appreciative of this, to attempt to have a one window approval process so that people are not getting pinged around between different orders of government. We want to make sure that we're all working together so that we can find a streamlined process. Mike, did you have any more you wanted to say on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say I'm in constant contact with Minister Sajjan, who's with the federal government, minister responsible for emergency management for the federal government. I know the Premier and myself, as long as Minister Lowen, have also been in contact with Minister LeBlanc. Obviously, Premier, we were in touch with the Prime Minister as well, not too long ago. But you know, we in order to, you know, obviously the uniqueness of Jasper being in a national park, obviously there are some complexities around that, and we want to make sure that we're removing any barrier so that we get the people the supports that they need in order to you know, help that recovery process. I do have commitments from the federal government that they're willing to work with us in any way possible, especially if there is some sort of barrier. They want to make sure they're with us to remove that, it be removed. And that's precisely why that from a deputy minister's level, we've set up a bit of a working group there that consists of all the necessary ministries within the federal government, as well as the necessary ministries in the provincial government, so that when our emergency management cabinet committee have our discussions, which we do every morning, issues arise, and you know, a lot of stuff might come out of
the host would like you to unmute your microphone. You can press *6 to unmute
the necessary departments in order to streamline the services so that people can actually get what they need. So I hope that helps, Premier.
Thank you for that response. On to our next question from Jeremy. Can self-sufficient RVers pick up their equipment once the road is clear, even if services are not on in town? Perhaps Steve from Parks Canada could start with that response.
Yeah, so thanks for the question. I think, I mean, the short answer would be yes, but I would suspect that this is not going to happen in advance. Our ability to make safe the campgrounds with all the same requirements that the town is going to need is going to be very much aligned with the town's timing. So it's not a matter of kind of us being half ready in terms of the whole incident. We are working together collectively to make sure that these areas are safe. So I think when the campgrounds are ready to access for personal belongings, we will make that happen. It won't be independent of what else is going on with the incident, because there's nothing unilateral taking place. But it's not contingent on the town, I guess, is that short answer there. It's when it's ready, when it's safe, when it's stabilized to do so.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Amita. It's will there be a mechanism to expedite a development permit to rebuild? Maybe we'll start with Minister McIver and then Parks Canada to respond.
I guess,
go ahead, Steve.
Okay.
Go ahead, Steve.
Minister. I know that Parks Canada nationally is aware that realty and development permits are a regular part of our administration that we're going to need much support for, to make sure that this will be an unprecedented time for residential development, and Parks Canada is putting its resources behind being sure that these processes will be as streamlined and as well supported as ever. We understand very clearly that we're going to need to double, triple, quadruple our capacity in terms of managing the permitting process going forward. And Parks Canada nationally is fully committed to making sure that's as streamlined as that process can be.
And I'll just say from the provincial perspective, we've got some experience in helping to reclaim communities that have been devastated in this way. And so we're going to offer that support and help to assist in finding ways to streamline that process with our federal counterparts. As part of the reason why we're hoping to be able to be involved in an advisory role on that.
Thanks for that, Premier. And I can assure you that we'll be working closely with the municipality of Jasper, our federal partners, and all the other ministries within the Alberta government, as well as with the private sector, obviously, where a lot of the construction expertise and professionals will be found from to get this done as quickly as possible. Don't have all the answers today, but I can assure you that we are interested in getting people in Jasper back into their homes sooner rather than later, and that will be our objective. And right now we'll be in a race. Let's face it, this first year between the first frost when the ground freezes hard, not the first frost, but we're aware of that. So it's a bit of a race, but people's livelihoods depend upon it. So we will be in a hurry, I can assure you. And we'll be working with the municipality, the federal government, Parks Canada, and the private sector, anyone and everyone that we can, and we'll be pushing to get things back to whatever you determine is normal as quickly as we can.
I'm going to ask Bill from Jasper if there's anything you wanted to add.
Sure. I just was going to say that to reiterate that this really is a three order of government initiative where the municipality will also be directly involved. We appreciate that there's going to be a need for real surge capacity. So the municipality has already been working very closely with Parks with respect to land use planning and development. We expect to be able to supplement the systems that are in place now and identify opportunities to improve upon those systems and really ensure that we can meet the coming demand from Jasperites and from local businesses.
Thank you. Just a reminder for anybody listening in, if you would like to join the conversation and ask a question, please press *3 on your phone. You'll be entered into the queue, you'll speak with an operator, and you'll be able to provide your question to be answered live. For those of you listening online, again, please enter your comment directly into the portal. Our next question comes from James. Is there anything being done to prevent looting while people are unable to access their homes? I'm going to direct that question to Minister Ellis, please.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the question. That was certainly a question that came up during the Alberta wildfires of last year as well. I can tell you that there is 24/7 protection being provided by the RCMP. Of course, they're covering all the access points into the community. I know the Premier and I experienced that along with Minister Llewellyn as we were heading into Jasper on Friday. So there's certainly check stops on all access points going into the community, as well as I also observed that they have active patrols within the community as well. So looting is something that's top of mind. The RCMP are taking it very seriously, and we have the 24/7 coverage in the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Our next question comes from Sydney. My parents and I are on Vancouver Island after evacuating. They don't have direct deposit. I do, but they can't get emergency aid transferred to me instead. We cannot drive all the way to a center. Can they get aid another way? Maybe Minister Nixon and then an official? Thank you.
Well, what I will say is we will do everything we can, no matter where you're at, as I said earlier, to get you your payments. I will turn this over actually to the Assistant Deputy Minister, who's probably best to answer how we can connect to do so.
Thanks. I'm going to actually ask for some help from my staff because it's getting into a pretty technical area. And if we don't have an answer, we'll commit to come back around. But I do have Joyce Pittman online. Joyce, can you join us in and see if we can get some help here?
Yes. Hi, Joyce Pittman here. They may call the Alberta Supports Contact Center
at 1-877-644-9992 and explain their situation. We would be able to complete the application, not over at that moment, but we'll have staff who will follow up and complete an application and make arrangements. If your parents agree to the money being e-transferred to your account, we may be able to do that. So we will work something out to ensure that your parents receive payment. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We've got two questions here related to getting back to the town site. One, what is the anticipated timeline for reentry, at least to collect our items? And can we do a site visit for our home if it was destroyed? I'm going to ask Bill if you can answer that, please.
Absolutely. This is top of mind for all of us as Jasperites wanting to be able to get back in and either see our homes if they were fortunate enough to remain standing or see where they were. So we are looking at options to provide residents early access to be able to sort of view the town site or view their properties that have been damaged. In terms of a timeline, as I mentioned earlier, just this afternoon, the Emergency Advisory Committee of Council approved a criteria for entering. And I'm being very specific. Those criteria are essentially a checklist of the conditions that will be required to make sure that the town site is safe, that it has the required services to operate for residents to live there on an ongoing basis. And we all have to remember that there continues to be a wildfire on the landscape. And so one of those prerequisites is that our partners at Parks Canada need to be able to provide information that says that the wildfire is not posing a current threat to the town site. So we have that information published on the municipality's website, on our Facebook page. We will make it widely available over the next couple of days, but it is available now. I would encourage residents to follow along with that criteria and listen to the progress that we make over the coming days. Everyone here, all of the partners at all three levels of government, all of our partner agencies and contractors are committed to meeting those criteria as soon as possible, recognizing that one of the largest factors is the condition of the wildfire. But residents can follow along with that progress and we hope understand the conditions that are required to make the town site safe for all of us again.
Thank you. Next question comes from Joseph. There are many able-bodied Jasperites who are sitting on their hands. Where's the sign-up sheet for those of us who will commit to mucking out? Maybe we'll start with Premier and then maybe somebody from the town of Jasper. Thank you.
Well, I would ask, I'll probably have to get someone from the town of Jasper to respond. It's a little bit different, I think, than when it was a flood situation and they were mucking out basements to be able to return the house to order. In this case, what we're observing is that the home is either very lightly damaged, not damaged at all, or completely destroyed. And having been in the town with Mayor Ireland, I can tell you, you don't want to be breathing in those fumes, and you don't want to be sifting through that material. It's very hazardous because it's a combination of a lot of toxic chemicals. So I don't know if Joe Zatalny, from having been in a fire chief role before in Edmonton, or if one of the others want to weigh in, but I think that the hazard removal is probably very likely going to have to be done by professionals.
Yeah, thank you, Premier. And yes, when you're dealing with not just only wildfire that went through, but also structures and the plastics and contaminants that are made up after a fire occurs, whether it's special breathing apparatus in different levels to types of masks and what type of specialists need to come in and have a look at removing the debris and what type of contaminants are in the debris. Those are all considerations that need to be looked into as we move through this process and do it as quickly as we can.
I appreciate both the preceding answers. I think Premier is right. You know, there are significant hazards there. She was able to see firsthand. And so that's top of mind. But I do want to assure residents that it is already a part of our planning process to facilitate your opportunity to supervise or influence an examination of your property. If there are important items that you feel may be located in the debris, we are already planning to enable you to direct that work. We will not, unfortunately, be able to allow you to do that work yourself for all the reasons that were previously mentioned, but it is already a part of our planning process to enable you to direct or participate, supervise some of that work, because we know that people may have items that they wish to retrieve from their properties, and there are specialized teams and resources that are there to allow us to do that, and that is already a part of our planning process. So outside of just generally wanting to volunteer to help rebuild Jasper, certainly we're going to need that spirit, but for those people that want to see their property and maybe access something there are specialized resources, and that is a part of our planning process.
Thank you all. The next question comes from Sunny. How long will evacuation centers remain open in Edmonton and Calgary? Maybe we'll go to Joe with the Alberta Emergency Management Agency.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And we're grateful. Edmonton and Calgary both publicly stated that they'll continue to keep the evacuation centers open for as long as they're needed. And again, our appreciation to our centers that look to support those across Alberta and whoever's in need. But I might turn it over to Christopher Reid to see if he has any comments.
I think you nailed it, Joe. I will only say that yes, the partners in Edmonton, Calgary, and Grand Prairie have been very willing to accommodate us. And to add to Joe's comment, when the need isn't there anymore is when the reception centers will be shut down.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Heather. Please speak to the cars left at trailheads or along 93A. When will people know if their vehicle is damaged? When might they be retrieved, if in fact? And what is the process if the vehicle at the trailhead is burned? Maybe Steve from Parks Canada could take that one on.
Yeah, happy to take that question. And I know that's, again, there's all measures of loss in this event. We don't want to diminish the importance of people's vehicles in their daily lives. When we are just got to the stage where the wildfire around town is stabilized, we still have kilometers of unprotected wildfire fronts to the south that need to be managed in terms of priorities. But when we have these areas secured, which is happening actively as we speak, we will be patrolling these zones, inventorying the vehicles, taking license numbers, communicating people to the best extent we can to let them know the status of the vehicle. Retrieval of vehicles will take place aligned with our reentry plans. Again, we can't have people in these areas until we can assure safety to the extent possible. So in the coming days and weeks, we'll have good comms on reentry, including into the outlying park areas, and first and foremost, stabilizing wildfire and other hazards.
Thank you. We've got a few minutes left here, so we're going to continue. We'll go to Krista's question. Will there be some form of payment for those people who are camping? Our RV was basically like a home. We have nothing and no supports. Aaron from IBC, would you like to answer?
Yeah, happy to speak to this from an insurance perspective. So if you had your RV insured like a vehicle, and you had comprehensive or all perils coverage, you would be entitled to compensation to replace your RV. Of course, if you're insured. I'd have to defer to another if there wasn't insurance in place. Not sure if anyone wants to take that piece.
I can try. I think it would depend on the circumstances. My advice would be to contact our number and lay out the circumstances of whether or not you are a temporary resident of the area that was evacuated or not. And the people on the other line, I think, would be best to be able to help facilitate that conversation for your unique circumstances. if this is outside the realm of insurance.
Thank you, Aaron, and thank you, Minister. Our next question is from Melissa. How much notice is expected to be given for reentry? Many Jasperites are temporarily living in Western Canada and would like to plan a return. Maybe the town of Jasper would like to answer?
Yeah, certainly. As I've mentioned, we have published criteria that people will be able to track our progress, so you'll be able to judge for yourselves how close we are getting. I think it maybe is useful to reference other examples across the province. Premier already mentioned that the wildfire does make this a dynamic situation. And for example, in Fort McMurray, where they had a significant loss, it took 28 days to have residents return. So we are, I think actually by looking at the clock, we are nearly 1 week, almost exactly 1 week to when the fires were first discovered. So I know that may be disheartening for Jasperites to hear. I want to get back to my home as well. I'm fortunate to have one. But there is a lot of work to happen. And there are no expenses being spared. And Jasperites should know that they have the full weight of the federal, provincial, and municipal governments behind this effort. There are many items that we can control, such as the reestablishment of emergency services, the reestablishment of critical services like healthcare and municipal public works and utilities, ensuring that there's critical retail available for you when you return, and that we have a formal reentry plan that is visible to all residents so you can understand how things will happen. And there are some things that we cannot control, and that includes the wildfire. We know our colleagues at Parks Canada and firefighters from across North America are working on this to contain that fire. Realistically, the fire itself will probably continue through the balance of the year. What the teams are working to do is to reduce the risk to the town site. And when we can ensure that residents returning can be safe, we will be able to enact the reentry plan. But in advance of that, everyone will be able to follow along with our progress and bring you along with this journey, on this journey with us. So I'm sorry that I can't give a day. I'm sorry I can't give a number of days. But you can know that all of the people assembled here and many, many more that you can't see are all working on your behalf to the best of our abilities as fast as we can to ensure that you can get home as soon as you can.
I'll just add from the other incidents that we've had, for instance, Slave Lake, similar number of structures, similar type of issue. They began getting essential workers in first, but they had a 4-phase plan to bring people back. So that may be just one thing that you might want to consider. Same with High River, which had, I think, 4,000 of the 5,000 homes that were heavily damaged. I think the first entry began at about day 10, and the last entry began at about day 28. So there has been experience with these kinds of approaches where they have been phased in. What I think makes Jasper a bit unique is just you have to be aware of what your evacuation points might be and where the wildfires are, as Bill mentioned. We and Todd would affirm that there are some fires that you end up having to fight over the year end and into the new year because they're just so hard to put out, and so there'll be that extra factor in Jasper of making sure that there isn't a danger of the fire blowing back into town. So I'm sure that does not give anyone any more certainty, but having been there, knowing exactly what it's like, and knowing that there are people at the table who've been there, we will be ensuring that we do everything we can to make sure you've got good communication and that the decisions are made as soon as it is safe to return.
Thank you for that. We started late, so we're just going to squeeze in a few more questions here to make up for that time. We have a question from Mark. When will Highway 16 reopen, even if for trucks? The economy depends on highway access. So Premier, maybe you could start with the response and maybe Minister Ellis after that.
Well, I can tell you we were having that exact conversation this morning. There's sort of two aspects to it. One is to be able to have the clear transit going through so that you can not only bring folks back, from British Columbia to Hinton, which is one of the earlier questions, but also to be able to have the flow of traffic going back and forth. We understand that CN's rail line was to this point not damaged, and so they have had a limited amount of cargo able to go through. I think they're on a lower pace of moving goods back and forth, but there is a priority on doing that, making sure to address the issues that nobody wants to be fearful that having a large number of vehicles transiting through Jasper is going to put their property at risk while they're still evacuated. So there are some additional considerations in making sure streets are closed off and that there isn't a way of getting in the community. Mike, did you want to talk to that?
Yeah, I mean, it really boils down to safety. I mean, I think as everyone's aware, there are still active wildfires, around the community. Fortunately, embedded within the Incident Command team, we have Alberta Wildfire along with Parks Canada. They'll be working very closely with, of course, Alberta Transportation. Certainly when it is indeed safe to do so, then when the road access will be open. But I can tell you this certainly is a priority for the Alberta Emergency Management Cabinet Committee led by Premier Smith. That was precisely the discussion we had this morning. We understand the importance of the road to the community and the economy, and we're going to make it a priority. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I think with that, we will wrap up tonight's town hall. I want to thank all of you for your questions and your comments, and thanks to all our elected officials and representatives who provided really detailed answers. Before we end, I just would like to invite Premier Smith to share a few closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you so much for participating tonight. I do know that when last fire season, we ended up doing about 20 town halls. There were twice as many people across all of Alberta who were evacuated at any given time. And so we have the ability to do these kinds of check-ins if there's a demand for them, and if there's a need to be able to get more questions answered. So be in touch with Mayor Ireland and make sure that you're letting us know if you think you're not getting enough information through our website and other means. We want to be able to have this kind of interaction so that you're not left without information. It's very important to us. And I just want to appreciate all of you for sharing your own experience and asking questions that have affected so many others by the wildfires. If you asked a question, no doubt there's another 100 people who are thinking the same thing. So thank you for that. I'd also like to thank everyone who provided information and answered questions. As we know, conditions can change really quickly, and that means the information we are able to provide you will change just as quickly. So we're working with our many partners to continue gathering the most current information about the wildfire situation in Alberta, along with the growing list of resources and communities that you can turn to. We'll continue to share daily updates on the wildfires for the foreseeable future. We do have an in-person briefing by officials that occurs, as well as a daily situation report in print. And please remember to follow your local authority and local media for up-to-date information. You can also keep on checking the Government of Alberta website at alberta.ca to find information about the wildfires and available supports, including mental health supports. And if you have questions or information you would like to see have posted there, just use the input email to tell us what answers you need, and we will make sure that we get those up to date as well and add that to the site. And I do know that these are really tough times for many, and my heart goes out to anyone who's struggling right now. The mayor, we were with him when he discovered his own personal loss, and so I know every single person who's going through that is going to have a lot of emotions that you're going through. But you aren't alone. We're here. We're doing everything we can to help share the burden and ensure that everyone has the support that you need in the days and weeks and months ahead. So just stay safe. Thanks for participating in the town hall. And we'll keep on having this communication with you over the coming days and weeks until we get you back into town. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Premier. For your information, this information session was recorded. It will be posted online. So as Premier said, for any up-to-date information, please visit alberta.ca/emergency. Again, that is alberta.ca/emergency for updates. Thank you and good night.